I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending Friday, October the 9th. And we just really saw a great recovery here. We're not really sure why. There wasn't a whole lot of news that really come out fundamentally or otherwise to really make this thing turn around. But it did, and we're going to take it. We're glad to have it. The board really came back strong this week, especially on Tuesday. Started out limit up on both live cattle and feeder cattle. Ended up for the week, live cattle closed at 130.77, which was up 7.72 for the week, even though it was lower on Friday as some deliveries and different things kind of pressured the market. But feeder cattle for the week closed up $9.47 at 188.97, which is a huge gain right there. Your CME feeder cattle index gained 360 for the week. It just takes cash longer to recover that ground, and we're really surprised that cash turned around as quick as it did. But CME feeder cattle index closed at 184.29. Your Cattle Market Central real-time index closed up $6.87 for the week, with Friday sales included in there at 183.50. And you look at the Cattle Market Central weekly detailed market quotes there, and maybe we did hit the bottom last week. As you look at last week's averages compared to the monthly average and the previous month there, you can see that we dipped quite a bit there. And I think more than anything, the market was just oversold, and everybody kind of realized that, and come out a lot stronger this week. Probably the biggest thing about positive news that we saw this week was we saw retailers come in and make a lot more orders for beef, and we saw some pretty good movement in the beef market this week, and they were able to buy that at a lot lower levels than what they've been working with for quite some time, which we're hoping will provoke them to start running some beef specials, which always brings the consumers up to the beef shelf and help move some of this product a little bit. Another thing that we saw that really helped the markets a little bit was on your actual slaughter data. We think that our dressed weights, which have been ballooning as we saw so many of those big giant cattle being produced, especially up in the northern plains, we think they probably topped out the week ending September the 21st with 923 pound steer carcass, as we got the data this week that come out for the 26th of September that showed that they retreated back to 920 pounds. And that's only 3 pounds on a dressed steer carcass, but it does show that we probably have peaked out on those big cattle, and so maybe we've worked through a lot of them. Your fat cattle this week made a big charge. They actually started out selling them a little cheaper there on Monday, and then a few scattered sales early in the week. But on Friday, come out and we had live sales in 4 of the 5 major feeding areas there, all at 127. And in the southern plains, that's $7 to $9 higher, which was huge. In the northern plains, it was from $4 all the way up to $11 higher. So that was really a strong sale there at 127 on Friday. As middle of the week, after we saw those early week gains, we were hoping for maybe 125, but really had a big recovery on your fat cattle. One thing that helped close the gap between your cash fat cattle and on the board is that we saw 66 loads of tender delivery against October, and we haven't even got to mid-October yet. But that pulled the board down a little bit, but it really raised the cash market as you started seeing some of those guys say, well, I'll just deliver these cattle, I've got them hedged, and it kind of helped bring the packers to the table to deal a little bit more. But your feeder cattle cash sales for the week opened lower also. Your big markets on Monday were lower again, as they have been for the last several weeks. And we've really been in a hard down market for a little over 2 months now. But we've started to see those recover on Tuesday and Wednesday. But on Monday, none of your big major markets like Oklahoma City or Joplin had even their top quality steers averaging over $2 for anything that weighed over 500 pounds. It's been a long time since we've seen that. But as we worked through the week, we kept gaining ground, and late in the week, you had some of your sales compared to the previous week that were as much as $10 higher. And on yearlings and calves. So not so much on calves as we're getting into the calf run. We've got a lot of them, and then there's a big range between your ball and calves that haven't been weaned, and your long time weaned calves, and your ranch strings of calves. But we saw those start to recover and should see that going into next week. But the Southeast was still lower on calves. It's going to take them a while. They do most of their work early in the week and don't see as much gain late in the week, but we should see some of that coming out next week, as we're starting to get some demand for your winter wheat pasture guys down the southern plains, and they like to buy those southeastern calves. That demand's going to start to come in. Your commercial feedlots finally come in and started buying some bigger feeding cattle. They finally looked attractive to them. The prices had dipped so much lower, and we're about out of true yearlings, and they know there's not going to be much else to buy in a few weeks here but big feeding calves, and they'd a whole lot rather feed those yearlings than they would a big calf. But also they know that as we start to wind down on harvest, that you're going to have more and more of your farmer feeders in the northern plains especially come into the market. Now they like to feed those calves, and they'll be buying them up, but anytime you start buying into those weight groups, it's going to raise the price on them. But on Friday in Lexington, Nebraska, we saw several loads of 9-weight steers. You see on there selling from 183 to 187. That might not sound very high, but that's better than what we've been doing. And also there in Lexington, Nebraska, on Friday we saw a load of 556-pound calves bring 224.50, and that's kind of been unobtainable for the last several weeks. But check out DV Auction. We've still got several fall production sales going to be happening over the next several weeks. And check out Cattle Market Central for your most up-to-date feeder cattle market information. And if you haven't checked that out, you sure need to. But here from my home office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.